Hello everyone, I'm Neil Corbould, as Slawomir said. I'm a special effects supervisor that works out of the UK, based in the UK, and as he explained, a few of my movies, I'll just show you. This is just a PowerPoint presentation that I threw together. I've been very lucky in my career where I've managed to get into the business at a very young age. I started when I was 15 years old, working on a movie called Superman the Movie with my uncle, who was the supervisor on it. And from the very first day when I walked into the James Bond stage and saw the Fortress of Solitude for the first time, which is the big ice set at the beginning of Superman, I knew that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to make movies, I wanted to do special effects. And it's, I'm very privileged to, 34 years on, it's still a great pleasure to wake up in the morning and have a big smile on my face knowing that I'm going to work and playing with some more toys and creating some more special effects. So it's a really good feeling. Special effects. I'm just going to give an insight into basically the practical side of special effects, which is very different from visual effects. We work very closely together, and I think when it's done properly, when practical effects and visual effects are put together and it's seamless, I think that is when the audience can't tell whether it's real or whether it's fake, and then we've done our job and everyone's happy. What is special effects? It's the art of creating illusions practically in front of camera, or as we call it, in-camera special effects, or on-set mechanical effects. I just want to show you a brief movie of some of my work in conjunction with visual effects. So that was just a selection of some standalone practical effects and also special effects in conjunction with visual effects and how good it can work when you get them both right together. And it also, the sound and everything, you know, associated with it makes the shot, basically. It's not just us, it's not just the visual effects or the sound or the actors, it's a combination of everything working well together that gives you a great shot. Different types of practical effects. You have the standard on-set effects, which is, you know, smoke and all that sort of stuff. Stuff that the director dreams up on the spot. You know, we have quite a big setup that, for a standby crew. You know, we can have anything from, you know, 3 people on the set at all times to 50 people on the set, depending on what the director wants and what's needed for in the script. You know, we can either have sort of set boxes that we sort of bring onto the stages, or we have, you know, quite big, large trucks that we can bring into locations. You know, really to cater for, you know, we sort of load them like Thunderbirds, if you like, you know, depending on what shot we're doing, we load the trucks and the standby boxes to suit that particular effect. So we don't carry everything for every shot, we just, you know, we plan each day or each week's, you know, requirements, and we load our set trucks accordingly. One of the hardest effects to do, practical effects, is weather, believe it or not. Smoke, you know, getting a constant mist is a nightmare, because if the wind is not in the right direction, you know, you can spend hours and hours trying to get something to look right. But again, like I say, once, you know, when it does look right, it's amazing, and sometimes it's worth, you know, waiting that extra bit and getting a great shot. You know, there's a lot they can do with visual effects these days, but, you know, a lot of the big directors, a lot of the top directors like practical stuff, there's no doubt about it. You know, Chris Nolan, who's one of the, you know, the biggest directors around at this time, he absolutely adores practical effects, and if he could, he would shoot the whole movie practically. You know, they've done some of the biggest sort of single effects, if you like, in movies today with a big truck. You know, in Batman Returns, in Chicago, they blew that truck up and over for real. Everything was, you know, the stuntman inside and everything. You know, we can create a very safe environment as well. You know, everything that we do is tested. You know, we don't just throw something together and chuck it on the set. You know, the stuff's drawn out. We check the stresses and strains on it. You know, it's a science now. It's not like it was in the old days where you used to throw something on the set and see if it worked. Everything is very well planned out. Yeah, we do rain effects. Again, that's quite a difficult one to do, believe it or not. Especially in long shots, long tracking shots. You know, we've done some on Saving Private Ryan where, you know, Steven Spielberg wanted to do this shot where he was running through the village and he wanted it all in one take. You know, he didn't want to cut anywhere. And basically, we had rain towers on cranes. We had stand-up rain towers down streets. We had guys with hoses running down one street, and then when the camera went round, they'd run around the other way and pick up another hose and chuck it up in the air. And it was really quite a feat to get this one shot that, you know, that could have taken a week to shoot, but, you know, we managed to get it in half a day, and he was very happy. Snow effects, again, you know, they can be very expensive shots. Depending on the size of the budget, you know, we can do a hell of a lot for real. But when you get to a big wide shot with snow, you know, really, we can just cover where the actors are and where the actors interact with. And then, you know, with the CG of today, it's very easy to create a massive snow environment. But wherever the actors are, and wherever they touch, it's always good to have that as a practical element, especially with falling snow. You can get some great particle stuff with visual effects, but when it actually falls onto people, you know, it's got to look right. And you know, it's very hard to do that with visual effects. Well, it's not hard, but it's very expensive to do, you know, and not a lot of productions have that sort of money to go to that extent. Then we go into hydraulics. Hydraulics is, you know, plays a big part in a lot of big action movies and pneumatics. These are sort of rigs that are built out of steel, and they're sort of large platforms that can move up and down. You know, we can make motion bases. Everything that we do is mainly built for the job. There's very rarely there's something you can buy off the shelf and say, yeah, we can put a bus on that and it's going to shake it around. Everything we do has to be designed and tested, and you know, again, it's really what the director wants. You know, if he wants a car flipping over, and he wants the camera inside the car, then we stick that on a rig that can tip the car, roll it over safely. You know, we tend to make the cars out of the softer material so that when the actors or the stunt people fly around inside, they're not hurt. You know, get rid of sharp edges. So pneumatic rigs. You know, in the past we've made dummies that can kick. You know, if they fall off a building and they, you know, rather than just having a dummy fall and hit the ground, we like to add movement to it. Just a subtle movement, doesn't have to be a lot, but it just sells the story that, you know, that the dummy's not a dummy, it's a real person. And again, you know, that sort of side of it has sort of died out a little bit, especially with, you know, with the ever increasing CGI work that's done. And you know, it does look good. There's no doubt about it, CG effects. But again, you know, if we can do it for real, it's worth doing. And you know, you can't fool the public all the time. You know, mechanical effects. I mean, that's very similar to hydraulic effects. Mechanical effects can also go over to the animatronic side, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But you know, we would make stuff like big clocks, or you know, if you want to see like the interior mechanism of a clock, you know, that would be a mechanical effect. What else? Pyrotechnics effects. Pyrotechnics effects are probably my favourite effects, because it allows me to make a lot of noise and create a lot of destruction and get paid for it, which is always good fun. I started that from a very early age with pyrotechnics. Really, you know, sort of the old typical chemistry set at home and things going bang and mix two things together, which was great. And then to get the chance to do it for real and do courses in it, and there are quite a few courses in the UK that you can do for explosives, which are a lot of fun to do. But you have to pay for that one, but that's still very good. And you know, you deal with some of the top explosive experts in the UK, and they take you down to a place in Somerset, and you basically spend a week or 2 weeks down there learning the science of explosives and also the handling of explosives and the safety of it. You know, because obviously safety is very paramount when you're dealing with sort of high explosives. Animatronics, that's an area, you know, that I've got into over the last sort of probably 8-9 years, a lot more. You know, it was a sort of dying industry, if you like, animatronics, with the CG work coming in. There's still a few companies doing animatronics. I did a movie called Warhorse, and Steven Spielberg was very, you know, he was very anti-animatronics. He knew that we needed to build one horse for when the horse was in the barbed wire, which we did. But one of my concerns was, because the story was about a horse and a boy, was getting, you know, realistic interaction with the horse and the boy. Horses have their own mind, you know, and even horses don't listen to Steven Spielberg that much, so they used to do their own thing a lot. So I took it upon myself to build an animatronic head of the horse, head and shoulders. And I brought it up in a meeting very early on with him, and he just told me not to waste my time, and he'd never use it, and but I didn't listen to him. And we built it, and I took it, first of all I took it to show Kathleen Kennedy, who was the producer on the movie, and she was quite impressed with it, and decided that I should show Stephen it. And I did say to her, I said, yeah, but I think he's probably going to tell me off for wasting his time. And she said, no, I think he will be pleasantly surprised. So I took the iPad to show Stephen, and I switched the iPad on, and he started looking at it, and he said to me, he said, why are you showing me this? Why are you showing me this real horse? And Kathleen Kennedy started giggling and just said, no, Stephen, just wait, you know, it gets better. So Stephen, you could see him getting quite irritated at this, and started looking away and looking back, and then he saw it wasn't a real horse, and he was actually quite suitably impressed, which is quite hard to do with a man like that. You know, he's quite a tough guy to work with. He's very talented. He's probably, you know, there's a few geniuses I know in the business, and he's certainly one of them. But to get recognition from him, and for him to say, you know, it sort of brought his heart back into animatronics was a big moment. And I think, you know, in the future, I think he will tend to look that way as well for doing some of the effects, animatronic effects that way. You'll see, I think a bit later on, I think you'll see that clip that I was telling you about. Prosthetic effects. Prosthetic effects is something I've got into, again, with the animatronics. I seem to be the battle man with prosthetics. I seem to be the one that makes hundreds of dead bodies with blood and guts and decapitations and stuff like that. I seem to be the man that people go to for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. We don't tend to do the finer detail stuff, not at the moment, but we certainly do mass and quantity and quality. You know, we did quite a lot of stuff on Black Hawk Down. At the beginning of Black Hawk Down, there's a scene where you see the famine that's in Somalia, and you see the emaciated bodies of these three people, and they actually were all animatronic silicon dummies with a very subtle movement. You know, there wasn't a lot of movement, but because they were near death. But just the subtlest of movement brings them alive, and it's really knowing when less is more, if you know what I mean, when you're doing that sort of work. Miniature effects. Again, miniature effects is something that we work very closely with the visual effects department. You know, again, they can build a lot of CG stuff, you know, CG models and stuff that they can blow up and that, but again, if you mix it with a very good miniature, you get so much more quality from a miniature, well-shot miniature that's dropped into a CG environment. You know, some of the James Bond films have been, you know, they're probably one of the classic ones that have kept miniatures into their effects work. And I think, you know, I think it's I think with the visual effects, they said to me probably 30 odd years ago that we didn't really have a place in the future. And I think with special effects now, I think we're stronger now than we've ever been, really. And you know, I think it's a glowing tribute to some of the special effects guys around, both in America and the UK and in Europe, that keep this sort of technique alive. And I hope it does in the time to come. What's next? Let me just think. The process of practical special effects, script to screen. So how it all starts is that, like any movie, you get scripts. Somebody will give me a script, I will read it, I will break that script down to my interpretation of what I think that director wants to see, which sort of helps him because the director obviously has so much to think about, not just the special effects, but everything, you know, everything involved with it. So I break it down as though I'm directing it, and you know, I will make suggestions. I will, I will talk it through with my crew, and we basically have meetings where and through those meetings we have a very detailed breakdown, which is also a list of questions that we have for the director as well. I will then normally send that over to the director ahead of time, because it's normally about 30 or 40 pages depending on the size of the script, just so that he can read it before we actually sit down, because it can be quite daunting when you sit down with the director the first time. You plonk 35 pages in front of him and expect him to read it and understand it, so I tend to give him 3 or 4 days to sit down and read it before we sit down together. And from that comes the creative process. He will have questions for me, I will have questions for him. We bring production designer into that, and other departments that's all involved with this process. This could be through a production meeting, or just a one-on-one, or one-on-two with the cinematographer and the director. And once we have sort of an outline of what the director wants and what he wants to see, we will then go into the budgeting process, which I love and the producers hate, because we're always miles apart and we always meet somewhere in the middle. So it's a sort of a bit of a game, but when you know how to play it, it's great. Once we've agreed on a budget, when we lock off, and today, because we're dealing with quite big budgets, some of the special effects budgets that I've worked on are sometimes like $5.5 million. And for a producer and production to give that to me to spend, they sometimes think they're off their head, because I could go and buy some nice cars and stuff and houses, but I don't. But for them to trust you, you do have to sign a bit of paper to say that you would do your best to get the special effects in on that budget, which I tend to do, and I think that's why a lot of producers and directors use me, because, I don't hide anything. I don't say I can do it for $2 million and then it costs $5 million, because that's very bad. So, touch wood, all my budgets have been pretty spot on, and producers and productions know that, and that's one of the reasons. And we produce good effects as well, so that's a bonus. So once we've got our budget, we then do the massive setup. We set workshops up, and this could be anywhere in the world. We can do production meetings in the UK, and then we can travel anywhere: Malta, Italy, America, China, anywhere. We've sort of got this down to a fine art where we can load containers so you can't even get a fag packet in there. It is an art loading containers and sending up to 14 containers away, 40-foot containers to, say, like Morocco or somewhere like that. The logistics of doing that is quite immense. It's quite intense, especially when you are on a schedule as well. But getting it right all comes from experience. It's once you've done the first one or two, then it becomes a lot easier. What else have we got here? Setting up the offices. Offices, again, the administration is very important. Working to a plan. The plan comes from the office, and it's delegated throughout the crew. Everyone knows what they're doing. We like to have meetings every morning with crew, and we minute these meetings as well, so that if anything happens, or with health and safety, if there's an accident in the workshop, we just want to make sure that everyone's fully informed of what's going on during the day and during that week. Health and safety is paramount in what we do. We're one of the only departments really that deal with other people's lives. You have the stunt department, but they deal with their own life. They're the ones jumping off of buildings and stuff like that. We're the ones that are setting the explosions off around people. We have the crew to look at, we have the actors, we have ourselves to take care of. So, we can be a bit hard sometimes when it comes to safety, especially around explosions and the big hydraulic rigs that can crush you. You know, if we see people that, you know, that ignore warnings, you know, we do get quite upset about it, because we're not trying to be awkward, we're just trying to be safe and to make you safe. So health and safety is very, very paramount in what we do. You know, for instance, I had this moment on Saving Private Ryan, where we had Tom Hanks and Tom Sizemore and a lot of the big actors on the beaches. The beaches were the first thing that we shot on Private Ryan. I was there for a month setting it up, and Stephen turned up the day before we filmed. That was the first time that we sort of really met. And we were doing some big effects on the beaches, you know, sometimes 500-600 bullet hits going off around actors, around Tom Hanks, around Tom Sizemore, and some big high explosive dynamite bangs around them as well. And we were doing this very complicated shot where Tom Hanks was running up the beach and Tom Sizemore was running up the beach in front of Tom Hanks, and he was supposed to stop at a certain point, shout something to Tom Hanks, and then run on up the beach. Well, Stephen was like quite pushing us quite hard that day, and I said, no, we got to rehearse this. We have to rehearse everything. We had 5 people on switch boxes and striker boards and everything, letting off all these explosions and bullet hits. So we did a rehearsal, and Tom Sizemore runs straight up the middle of the set, didn't stop, just carried on running. Now, if we'd shot that, we would have, and the guy didn't see him, because we had 500-600 extras on the stunt people on the set as well. So people's cues were very important. We had to have eye contact with, you know, all the main actors, all the people that were on the beach, so that we didn't hurt anyone. Anyway, he runs straight up the beach. We shouted cut on the rehearsal, and Stephen said, right, let's shoot it. And I had to turn around to him and say, no, we can't shoot it, we need to rehearse it again. So he said, well, why? I said, well, because Tom Sizemore ran straight through the middle of that explosion, and if we'd let it off, he would have been dead. So he got the humps, chucked his hat on the floor and ran back in. Okay, let's do a rehearsal for Neil. Made it very aware that everyone knew it was for me. So we turned over on the rehearsal. He shouted action, and Tom Sizemore did exactly the same thing. Ran straight through the middle of the set. And so they shouted cut. Stephen jumped out of his tent and said, let's shoot it. And I said, I'm sorry, Stephen, but we're not shooting it. By this time, Stephen is getting very irritated with me. I actually thought that probably that was going to be my last day on the movie. But we did it a third time, we rehearsed it a third time, and Tom Sizemore, being Tom Sizemore, did exactly the same thing. Stephen jumped out of the tent, shouting, let's shoot, and I started shouting back at him, no, we're not. So he come running over to me and said, what do I have to do for us to shoot next time? So I said, well, take Tom Sizemore out of the shot. So he said, okay, take Tom Sizemore out of the shot. And we turned over and we did the shot, and it worked. But it was just one of those health and safety moments that I'll remember for the rest of my life, and he never lets me forget it either.
But you didn't get fired?
I didn't get fired, no. I did actually go on to work with him again on another movie, so that was quite good. Setting up workshops, we sort of went through that with the offices. You know, I'm very lucky that I have quite a big workshop in the UK. I have 4 big workshops in the UK, so which are permanently set up. So, you know, for any production working in the UK, I can start on a Monday and actually start working on a Monday, as opposed to setting workshops up, which can take 2 to 3 weeks. So again, that is a big plus for a production that hire me. You know, we have a vast range of rigs that we've kept over the years and designed. So you know, normally, you know, we can do big budget movies or even very low budget movies. I've done a lot of student movies where, you know, rather than having it sit on the shelf, I'd rather it be out and working and doing stuff for the young filmmakers that are coming up. Design. I've got a team of great designers that work with me that make me look really good. I have ideas. I have good ideas that I can tell people about, and then I've got these guys that can sit down and draw these three-dimensional rigs, and then I'll just go in there and tell them to rub that bit out and put that bit in, and they do it. I mean, it's great. But it also, the key to designing rigs is that it is very cost effective to do it this way. Rather, in the old days, we used to just throw something together and hope that it worked, whereas now we can design it in 3D. We can then give it to the visual effects department, who can then put it in their previs, and the director knows exactly what he's going to get before we've even put a nut and bolt together. So that is, that's a very good tool that we have, again, working with visual effects, and it helps us immensely to show the director what he's actually going to get on the day. No surprises. And then once we've designed the rigs or the effects, then we build them. Again, as I said earlier, you can't buy these rigs off the shelf, so everything has to be built to spec. A lot of the time, I try and keep hold of them. I buy them at the end of the movie, so that I've always got them. Other times, we just cut them up. We'll do the shot with them. It'll last for a week, and then we cut them up, which is a bit of a shame, but we can't keep everything. Testing, again, is a major thing for us, and that's sort of in conjunction with health and safety. We won't take any rig onto the set around actors or crew unless we've actually tested it. A lot of producers, we get a lot of stick from producers from this because it does take time, and it does cost money, but at the end of the day, a safe set is perfect. Everyone knows what's going to happen. We shoot the test, we show the director it, we show the actors it. They know exactly where to be, what's going to happen, and it's very important. And it is hard because some of the younger supervisors or new supervisors, they tend to sort of not test stuff, and that's when stuff goes wrong. So it's very, even from a very young, at the beginning, you've got, if you're doing special effects, you have to insist on testing stuff because, especially the bigger stuff, it can, because really, you're only as good as your last effect. If I hurt somebody tomorrow, then you wouldn't see me again. I'd disappear because, people don't hire people that have hurt people. Like I said, once we've done the testing, we show the director. We make sure that he's happy with it. We can do any fine tweaks before we get on the set. If the director doesn't like the way that bang looks, if he wants more flame, we can go away and do another test and show them. Once he's happy with it, then we can bring it onto the set. We also, from that, can learn. We can learn safety distances from stuff like explosions. We know, we can put up certain apparatus that measure pressure, overland pressure, and particles, how far particles fly. And sometimes they're just simple bits of frame, steel frame with a piece of paper in it. And if a piece of shrapnel goes through the bit of paper, you know that somebody's too close and that could cut you. So, some of it's very sophisticated testing equipment, other bits are very simple. Installation, once we're happy with the rig or the effects, we take it onto the set. This sometimes can be, if it's a hydraulic motor base, this can take weeks, or if it's something very simple like a gas cooker that has to work, it can take minutes. It really depends, and this all comes down to planning, because if you suddenly turn around to the production designer and the construction and say, oh, I need 2 weeks to rig this, and they say, oh no, we're shooting this on Monday, it can become a big problem. So communication is very important between other departments when we're building these rigs and effects. Then we come to shooting it, and that's the best time because you have everyone around. We have safety briefs before any big effects, where we will get everyone together. We get everyone to stop work. We'll stand there with the first assistant director, the director, and we'll gather all the crew members. Even the tea lady will come over and have a listen as well, because because we want to make sure that everyone knows the potential hazards of what can happen when we do, like, say, a big explosion in the set, like you saw on that show reel right at the end, on Fifth Element. You know, we need to know that people are not up in the reds, you know, up in the gantry. We need to know people are not behind the set when we let this stuff off. You have people that want to take a photograph, so they'll go up on top of the set and not tell you, you know. So we have to tell everyone the dangers that are involved. And again, before we do some of these big shots, like the one you saw on Fifth Element, we will walk around the set, we will go up, you know, and then shut the door so that people can't get in before we do these sets. And it can take time, you know, that shot on Fifth Element took 20 minutes to lock the set down until we were happy that there was nobody in a dangerous place. And then obviously once we've shot the shot and everyone's happy and everyone's high-fiving everyone, the shooting crew go away and we wrap it up. And you know, the wrap is just as important. You know, we've got to check that there's no unburnt pyrotechnics or explosives that are laying around, you know, and because at the end of the day we just want safety for everyone. You know, we don't want to leave any bits of metal sticking out or anything like that. So the wrap is very important, and that we sign the set off. What have we got next? Training. Training is very important. We tend to, when we start a sort of a fair-sized movie, we always take a lot of trainees on. We'll probably take 5 to 6 trainees on. You know, we want to keep our industry going, you know, our technique. And, you know, this is a great training ground because, again, you're doing this sort of work and you're getting paid for it, which is great. You know, to cover for insurance purposes, we send a lot of our trainees on like forklift courses and telescopic handler courses and scissor lift courses and explosive welding courses. You know, if you've got a bit of paper saying that you're competent in doing this stuff, you know, you can basically get a job anywhere. It's not just in special effects. If special effects goes a little bit, or the film industry goes a bit quiet, you can go out and get a job in a yard, in a warehouse with a forklift license, you know. So, you know, the production or my company would pay for this training because it covers me as well. You know, I want somebody that's working in my workshop that is safe on a forklift because they can do a lot of damage. You know, you can drive through walls with them or, you know, drop things on people, so, which is not very good. You know, and with the training as well, you know, as I mentioned earlier, there's the explosive training, you know, that's down in Somerset, which is a great experience. You know, I'll probably do it again just for the hell of it because it's a really good course. Maintenance on equipment. Maintenance is very important because at the end of the day, it's you know, a lot of these machines that we use is our livelihood. If you get it onto the set like a smoke machine and it doesn't work, the director's going to be quite irritated and the producer. And you can lose a lot of time. You know, if a piece of equipment doesn't work, then, you know, it can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars if they can't get a shot, because, you know, sometimes they've got to go to somewhere else, they've got to go to another stage or something like that. So it's very important that our equipment is kept, you know, the maintenance is kept up. And I keep service records on a lot of our equipment, just so that when they take it off the shelf, we know when it's been serviced and when it was last used. The testing and keeping records, again, this is very important for stuff like hydraulic rigs and stuff like that. If an accident happened on the set, the first thing that the health and safety executive or the insurance company would say is that piece of equipment safe? We can say yes it is because it's been tested, and we have bits of paper to say that it's tested and when it was last tested, and even photographic records of it being tested. So, you know, these records are very important. You know, if you're doing special effects to keep, it's a pain in the arse and it takes a lot of time. But in the end, and you know what, you might never use them, but if anything does happen, then as long as you've got this bit of paper, it will safeguard you. Data sheets. Every piece of material whether it's a bag of sugar or anything, has a data sheet. Spray paints, brake cleaner, anything like that has a data sheet. And basically this data sheet tells you if it's harmful to you or not. And when you're working on a set environment, we need as a department, and every department needs to make people aware if something's dangerous. So we have data sheets. We're the department that probably use these the most because of what we do. So like a smoke machine, the smoke is given off, people want to know what they're breathing in. So this data sheet will basically tell you what's in it, what's in the oil, and what the safe working time is in this type of material. So again, these data sheets are very important. Most of them are on Google where you can get them off, but if not, I always keep hard copies of them, so I've got like files and files of these things. Compatibility. We use lots of different types of gases and materials, and certain things can't go together. If they do, they create this loud bang, and normally there's bits of metal flying around. So it's very important that people know within the effects industry what certain materials can go together. Because at the end of the day, explosives are made up of a compound of different, they can be, if you put 5 things together, they can all be inert, which basically means that if all 5 things don't do anything, but as soon as you mix them all together, the chemical compound changes and it becomes dangerous. So it's having a working knowledge of what is capable, what's compatible with what. You've got to be very careful. I've seen people, even with simple stuff like charcoal and stuff like that, which is, they'll throw charcoal, which you use on a barbecue, in the back of a truck, and they'll drive across this rocky ground in Morocco, and then after 10 minutes they wonder why the back of their truck's on fire. And it's basically with charcoal, with the friction, it can actually ignite. And it's just silly little things like this. And this happened, We was in Morocco on a movie called Gladiator, and we had to do some smoke. So we chucked some big bags of barbecue charcoal on the back of this pickup and started driving across the rough ground. And after about 5 minutes, the back of the truck was on fire. So. And we couldn't figure out what it was to start with. We thought we'd left some explosives or there was some petrol on the back, but it wasn't. It was just the sheer friction of this charcoal rubbing against each other. Right, what else? Smoke machines. I'm sure you've all seen smoke machines, but these are just a few that we use. R10. This is an exterior smoke machine. I'm not sure if anyone's seen this one or not, but this is probably the most commonly used exterior handheld smoke machine there is. It's robust, it's versatile, it's very simple to use. It's literally just a gas bottle on the bottom and an oil fluid, smoke fluid on the other. It just basically heats up through that coil at the top. And then the oils pass through the coil and it produces smoke. A great machine. If I'm here next year, I'm going to bring a lot of this stuff with me, just so that you guys can have a play. And hopefully it will give you another dimension to your projects. So yeah, great machine, very versatile. I've probably got 60 of these things, so I'll certainly bring a few with me. This is a medium-sized smoke machine. This is what I was saying about earlier. This is something that we've made specifically for our job. We wanted something that was like the R10 that you saw earlier, but we just wanted a bigger version of it, which is what this is. This is just a big pressurized cylinder and a heater. You just heat the coil up and pass the oil, and it's this will do like a small forest, if you like. The bigger the forest, the more of these machines you have. And then we get to the big boys. These are These are huge smoke machines. These are what they put on the back of battleships. So when they're doing a smoke screen, they will have like 10 of these at the back of the ship, and they would just produce enough smoke where you can actually block out an armada of boats. They're great for what we use. We use them on Black Hawk Down, we use them on King Arthur with Slawomir, and they're great. You know, we can block out if there's something in the background that we don't like. It can be a quick fix. You know, instead of doing visual effects, we can block it out with smoke. And these are the machines that we use. And these type of machines would go on the back of a pickup truck. And you can just drive them around, and they're great. They work really well. This is a steam machine. You know, I think a lot of these effects, you know, when you see them in movies, you don't really see them. They're like hidden effects, if you like. They're very subtle. You know, we'd use this in like in a shower room or something like that. We would plumb this in, or you know, if you're looking at Batman or something like that, where you see steam coming out of the steam covers, we'd use a machine like this or similar to this. And basically, this is a machine, and this is an industrial machine that they would have in like a warehouse or somewhere like that, or a big or an office block that produces the hot water for the central heating. But we adapt it. You know, we take it and we'll put it on a trailer and we'll make it portable. It still needs to meet all the safety regulations, but you know, we can actually just drive it around wherever we want, plug it up. This is a gas-powered one, but we also have a diesel-powered one. You know, we have big ones that are in containers. So again, yeah, we can do any sort of steam trains. You know, it's very hard to find. You can find steam trains, but sometimes they don't work. So we can make them work with these type of machines. Wind machines, lots of varying types of wind machines, from little on-set wind machines. You know, this is an E-fan from the States. This is like a cheap version of the Moles fan. There you can see there's the Moles fans are the sort of pinky ones. They're the sort of the Rolls Royce, if you like, of wind machines for stages. They're so quiet. They've been around forever, and they just keep getting better and better. The blades are designed for so that they don't make any noise, and the motors are specially wound. And so yeah, the pink ones are the ones to get if you can get those, and then the rest of them are just different size wind machines for different applications. And then we go to the bigger type. The ones on the right are the electric. You know, I think there's a 18 kilowatt at the back and a 32 kilowatt in the front, and then on the left-hand side are the petrol-driven wind machines for exterior use. Again, you know, we have quite a large stock of these. You know, and they're great. You know, they can produce enough wind to push smoke into forests and break it up, or to do small storm sequences, that sort of thing. Then we have the big boys. These are V8 wind machines. These are basically swamp boat engines and props and gearboxes, which we've just adapted. We just stuck them on a trailer, and then we can make them portable. These two here are actually built for a movie called Vertical Limit, which we shot up in New Zealand, up the mountains, and we basically lifted these onto the mountains by helicopter, and that's why they're bright colours, so that if we had a snowfall, we could find them again. Mechanical rigs. Again, this is another area which I love. You know, it's just the process that we go through from design stage, talking to the director of what he wants, to the end product. This is the gimbal that we built for Superman. This was the scene where the plane was crashing, so all that interior shaking and going at different angles, and people flying down, you know, like a zero G, if you like, was all done on this this gimbal. This is a 3-axis gimbal basically. So sorry, 2-axis gimbal. So it basically goes forward and back, and then it rolls from side to side. And I think you can just see the little man down at the bottom there. So it sort of gives you a scale of the size of this this rig. And basically it could do from one end to the other, so it can go from this position down to the other position in less than a second. So you would actually leave the floor as it dropped. You know, that was quite one of the biggest rigs. But we also have to design the metalwork as well that incorporates a lot of other departments, like the lighting department, you know, the camera department, the grip department. We had to build special rigs within this this gimbal rig to accommodate other departments. Black Hawk Down. Slawomir knows this one. We built this helicopter rig. I was very insistent on the helicopter being hung from where the rotors were attached to give it its true movement. There was talk about having the gimbal underneath, but that's not how a helicopter acts. And you know, I know we've got to put the rotor blades on with CG, but you know, for me, we still had to create the right movement for that CG effect to work. So that was one of the reasons that we hung it from the top as opposed to the bottom. You know, and we could, if we needed to, we could get the helicopter landing, because there was a chance at one point on this movie where we wasn't actually going to get any Black Hawks at all. You know, the American government were supplying these, and they, right at the last minute, they were being quite difficult. And we sort of made the choice to build 2 anyway, with the thought that if we didn't get the Black Hawks from the American government, then we could do a lot of the shots in here, even if it was on a green screen environment. But you know, lucky enough, we did get the real Black Hawks, and they were amazing, and the little birds that we used, and they were you know, you couldn't have done that for real. But you know, for certain shots like this, where the guy fell out of the helicopter, you know, we didn't really want a Black Hawk flying over the top of these buildings, although they did quite close and blew all their laundry everywhere. But for this particular shot, you know, it was good that we could just set it up in the environment that we were working under, and have a real Black Hawk in the vicinity. Well, our biggest problem was obviously getting wind and stuff. So you know, we lifted this wind machine up onto the top of somebody's roof to try and get wind into the cockpit. And you know, these little air movers that you can see, the little yellow things that blow the actors. So, but again, you know, it was quite a big logistical thing to get this crane in these streets where people live and get this shot. But you know, in the movie, it came across very good. The Day After Tomorrow gimbal, again, this was more of turbulence, you know, for that particular bit, and you know, it had to do a steep incline. So this was just a 2-axis gimbal that shook, and just the front of it came up on this particular gimbal. But again, you know, that's probably, I don't know, it's probably 15, 20 metres long, so it's quite a big rig, 6 metres high. Superman. I was very lucky to work on the first 3 Superman, and then to be asked to do the new version of Superman a few years ago, not the new one. And I think I was the only person on Superman Returns to have worked on the first one, which was, I thought they would have quite liked that, you know, somebody from the first, but they tended not to take any notice of my experience with Superman and just decided they wanted to do it another way, so that was quite funny. But yeah, I mean, we built a rig to help fly Brandon Roth to look like Superman. This was you know, we used a lot of techniques on this movie. There was a lot of wire stuff. There was this rig. There was obviously the CG Superman. And what's interesting with this shot is that because Superman was so close to my heart with working on the first 3, I was very upset about his boots, because for me they didn't really look aerodynamic, but they said that but they were made by Nike, so they must be good. So, but what they ended up doing, I mean, the director did in fact say, no, you're right, they do look like he's wearing a pair of Wellington boots. And what they actually did is they took his feet out and CG'd him. So it was, but these boots particularly looked good when he walked around, but all the shots you ever see him flying, they were CG feet. Because because he couldn't point his toes with the boots on. Little bit of trivia there. More mechanical rigs. On Superman, we actually built 14 gimbals, motion bases for different things. This was a very simple one which we just had the bridge of the ship on. This just basically rocked from side to side. This was for the aeroplane, again for Superman. This was a 4-axis, so it could go from side to side, front to back. It could go up and down, and it could spin as well. And then we just put wind effects on that, and away you go on a green screen environment. Again, this is one of the rigs that I've kept and adapted. I adapt rigs for different shows. This was a rig for Day After Tomorrow. This is a space station for Day After Tomorrow. So this rig could revolve 360 degrees, and each of the panels you could take out and just put the camera in. So and then we had the actors on these little teeter-totters, which are basically just 0G rigs that they just sat on, which was like a counterweight. So we just made them weightless, and they could just move around the rig in a 0G look. Fred Claus is probably one of the movies that I wish to forget because it was so bad and I can't even believe that I've put it on here. But again, it's the same rig that we use for the aeroplane. Again, we've adapted it to suit the shot. But I did get to go to Chicago for that one, so that was good. Tank work. I've done a lot of tank work over the years. We built this tank in one of the stages in Sydney, in Australia. We built these towers. It was literally just for the storm sequence of them getting out and saving Superman. But literally, we went onto an empty stage. We built the walls up. We had this urethane sprayer instead of lining the tank, because we had to move heavy machinery around the tank. We had this urethane spray which basically sprays this. It's like where they make some boats and they seal tanks with it, and we just sprayed it around the tank and sealed and made a water tank. It was only like 1.2 meters deep. We made wave makers, which are basically just big wedges that just go up and down in the water, which creates a swell or a small wave. And it's just enough for the visual, to give the visual effects a real element in foreground. And then all the storm, big waves and stuff in the background were CG. This is a miniature set that we built. This is really to explain to Brian Singer what the rig could do. So this wasn't used in the movie at all. It was really just as a way of showing the director what he was going to get on the set. That he didn't turn up. So this was a fully working model. This piece here moved up and down this track, and then the whole platform then tilted up and then dropped down into the tank, and it's basically where they get locked in this room, and it's filling up with water. So from that, he could, the director was happy with what he could do, and then we carried on building the set. This is just a reverse angle of the tip tanks. So you can see everything's nice and new. And again, we just built this for this, we shot on this for a week and then we ripped it all down. So, it's, I'm sure the Australians kept all the rigs and, the tip tanks and stuff. But, it just shows you what, the turnaround and not the waste that can go into films, but, just what extremes productions will go to get a shot. This is that rig that I just showed you earlier. This is when we actually built it, and you know, that whole platform just lowers into the water, and it really was a good shot. And then we could just lift it out, and the actors were all safe, and everyone was happy. Prosthetic effects. This can go anything from dummies to people being cut in half. King Arthur. That was quite an intense sword slash. Can't say cut himself shaving. And this is this next bit is what I was talking to you about earlier. This is what I showed Steven Spielberg. So this is the point where Steven says, "Why you show me this real horse?" And Kathleen Kennedy was saying, "No, just wait, it gets better." And then again he said, "Neil, what are you doing to me? Why are you showing me this?" And Kathleen said, "No, just wait a minute." And I said to Kathleen, I said, "I'm going to get sacked in a minute if you don't tell him." And then we see the little operator at the back. And this is when Stephen said to me, "You're shitting me, aren't you?" So yeah, that was a magic moment. That was one of my magic moments in the film business. And you know what? To be honest, we did use it, but we didn't use it that much. But it gave Stephen the reassurance that if he wasn't getting the performance from the horse, then we could run this in at any point, and you know, and he would get some good stuff. So, yeah. So, yeah, this is what I seem to be known for, these battle scenes, which is death and carnage. Yeah, I seem to be good at it. I've got a very large stock of dummy moulds and bits of body and stuff that, you know, we can call upon and make these sort of scenes for real. And obviously in the movie this was enhanced again, you know, with CG in the background, just to look like hundreds of thousands, not just hundreds. But we made, for that movie, we made 50 dead horses, which we sculpted from scratch. Different attitudes. It wasn't just one horse we sculpted 4 different horses. And then just by making 6 different legs, we just took one leg off and put another leg on in a different position. It actually changed the attitude of the horse, so they didn't all look the same. It's just little tricks like that help create these sort of large death scenes, if you like. This is a mechanical horse that we built for King Arthur. And this is basically the horse rears up with Clive Owen on the back. This is not Clive Owen, by the way. And the horse gets a spear in the chest and it rolls over. And this was just, a horse that we designed and built. Again, this was Kingdom of Heaven. Again, I think he gets his arm cut off or his head cut off on this, and the whole body just collapses. So it was all basically off these little pneumatic brakes, if you like, so we could set the body in a certain attitude, and then just at that moment that the sword comes in and cuts his head off, we can just release it, and it just gives enough motion in that shot to rather than just having the dummy standing there and he gets his head cut off. It just gives you a few frames of movement before the sword comes in. And sometimes it sells the shot. You think it's like in Gladiator, we did that a lot. And it's just a subtle movement that brings the dummy alive. More prosthetic stuff. Burnt bodies. Again, not very nice, but productions ask for this and they want realistic stuff. So we've got, again, I've got a great creative team that are very sculptors and moulders and finishers that do all this great work. Brendan Gleeson, he did get decapitated, I know that for sure. This head here, this is before we added all the blood and makeup before, so it looks a bit clean here. But this was a live cast from Brendan, and then everything's hair punched. There was a slight movement in the we had eyebrows and the mouth moved as well. So it's just that subtle movement before the sword goes through to sell it. Wound appliances. Again, these were originally made for King Arthur. I don't think we actually used too many of them in King Arthur in there because of the rating. But at one point, it was gonna be quite a bloody, gory movie. But it went to a PG-13, I think, in the end. Unfortunately. So this is my few of the moulds that I have. So over the years you just build this stuff up, and I don't tend to throw anything away. So this is probably doubled and tripled now. And it's that there's horse moulds, there's elephant moulds, there's camel moulds, there's goat moulds, there's everything, cows, everything. And like I say, I like to keep hold of them because it helps other productions, smaller productions, because to sculpt a horse or something like that, it does cost a lot of money, and the whole process of moulding it, and it costs a hell of a lot of money. So it does make it a cheaper option for lower budget movies. Snow effects. Again, this is that movie that I don't like talking about too much, but the snow looks pretty good in it. So, and this set was completely built in a big hangar in Cardington in the UK, and we basically snowed it up, and there was actually underneath that was a real ice rink, because there was some skating that was going on. And with a little bit of Atmos smoke, it just gives you that cold look. It's just very subtle things. There's a shot of it empty, and you can see the difference because there's no smoke in there. It looks a bit like a postcard, but just adding a bit of smoke in there, it just brings the temperature and good lighting, of course. So, Defiance. This was a little movie I did for Ed Zwick. This is when I went back to basics, and I'd worked with Ed Zwick on Blood Diamond out in South Africa, and he had this little movie that we shot in Lithuania, and they didn't have a lot of money on it, and this was basically me and 4 of my crew that went out there to do these effects for him. We had we had a lot of fun. We shot it in 6 weeks. I think I was out there 10 weeks total. That's my Christmas card for that year. But yeah, we went into a real forest and basically snowed it up. And again, it's just adding that bit of smoke, and even the black and white image gives you, just totally transforms the image into this very cold, cold freezing day. And this is basically paper snow as well. This is very fine, chopped up, bleached paper, which looks very good. And we blow this onto a set through a machine that basically breaks it up and then just sprays it onto the set. These machines are actually what they used to do a cavity wall insulation with, believe it or not, and they've been adapted to our industry. And again, these just go on the back of trailers, and we can just blow this snow into any sort of area, any area you want. Again, black and white. I love black and white in these sort of instances. And that's just a slightly saturated colour. Again with the smoke. I think it just sells it. And we was lucky, at the end of this movie, we did actually get some real snow, and it actually cut together seamlessly. You didn't really know what was the real snow and what was the artificial snow. So, you know, for us, you know, it was great because, you know, we felt that we'd done our job then and that everyone was happy. Fire and explosions. The Mummy Returns. He actually did this for real. This shot. He was quite Brendan. I can't remember his name now. Brendan somebody. Fraser. That's it. Brendan Fraser. Well done. He actually done this for real. He was you know, he was a good guy, very fearless, and you know, to get shots like this with him in it were great. And we started off small. You know, where he jumped through, there wasn't as much flame, and we had wind on him as he jumped through, just to cool him down. But you know, it was a great shot, and you know, we had people do this, stunt people, and you know, they were happy for him to do it, and you know, he does enjoy it. By the way, that face is, we're not burning him there. He's acting. This is a trench blast that we did for the last. Clash. Again, the visual effects wanted to do this, but you know, I was adamant that we wanted to do it, and basically it's supposed to be a creature burrowing under the ground, going towards, you know, it's going towards this building. So again, we'd shot that for real, and when we saw it in the movie, it's actually, there's not a lot of visual effects in that shot. It was all us, which we were quite happy with. This is quite a, you know, Saving Private Ryan beach sequence was quite, you know, it's probably one of the most proudest scenes that I've been involved with. You know, we shot this in 2 weeks in Ireland. This is you know, this is the sort of effect we were doing when Tom Sizemore was running through the bullet hits. So you can see why I didn't want to, you know, you can see why I said to Stephen what I did, because obviously, you know, Tom Sizemore could have been at the top of that water spout there if he'd been in the wrong place. And I'm sure his family wouldn't have been very happy with me either. So, the timeline. Again, timeline wasn't particularly one of my movies that I like to boast about, but this explosion was. You know, this is a full-size explosion, so. You know, this piece at the bottom of the flame is a castle that they built, and this is supposed to be the armoury blowing up. And you know, this took us 2 weeks to rig up, and that flame went about 150 feet high, which is what, 30 metres? Is that 30 metres? 40 metres? Something like that. No, it's more than that. 150 feet is 70 metres, I think. So yeah, it was a big explosion. And again, we actually had actors in just outside of that shot. This was the camera from outside the building. We had cameras and stunt people in the building with that as well. And it looks at, for this explosion, I used, believe it or not, I used paper. This is like a paper dust. So it gives you this huge explosion, but it goes out very quickly. There's no residue from it, but it gives you this bright orange flame. And you know, again, we had tested this, believe it or not. We tested this not in this environment, but we tested it somewhere else. So we knew exactly where we could put people. And when they saw the dailies the next day, they couldn't believe what shot they got. So they were very pleased with that. Shame the film didn't do very good. High altitude explosions. This was up Mount Cook at 4.5. I think this was 4,000 meters or something like that. Again, helicopters. We used helicopters to get the explosives up there, and you know, we took a day to rig it and 2 seconds to let it off, and it was a very good, very nice shot. Fire and Explosions 2. Black Hawk Down. We got through a few bullet hits on that. I think we got through about 40,000 bullet hits on Black Hawk Down, individually put into sets and cars and people. We had between 40. We actually had 40. I think it was 45 effects crew, but then we had another 30 prosthetic crew that were working with us as well. And I always remember the first day when we had a lot of bullet hits. We had one of the advisors that was actually on that mission in Somalia, and we probably had, I know, in that one shot we probably had 500 bullet hits going off, and charges and RPGs and all that sort of stuff. And after when Ridley shouted cut, or when Terry Needham shouted cut, the guy that was there, he was, you could see he was physically shocked by what he saw. He felt it was so real that it brought back a lot of memories to him. And again, although it wasn't very nice for him, it was good for us to know that we'd recreated something that was very true to the look of what actually happens in war. Gladiator. Again, we took a forest in the UK and basically rigged it up with flames and flaming balls, and quite an epic shot, really, epic sequence, which again I'm very, very proud to be a part of. Saving Private Ryan with the 2 planes flying through this is probably one of the last shots that we shot in the movie. Again, it really got the adrenaline going, because these are real planes, these are not CG. And it was such a moment to be there when these planes were flying through with explosions going off and that. I'm very lucky that I've been in these positions where I've experienced this, and I hope one day that all you guys will be in this position and see these sort of things happen on sets and do these things. King Arthur, big flame trench that we made. That's probably, I think that was probably 170 metres of flame. Again, took a lot of rigging, 2 weeks to rig this. Huge propane tanks, 6-7 metres long and probably 3 metres diameter propane tanks that were set into the ground, pipes rigged from the tanks into the trench. The trench was set out into sections, so we could have certain sections alight and other sections not. We got through quite a bit. I think it was 100,000 litres of propane every couple of days doing these big flame effects. We do a lot of element stuff as well for visual effects. They call on us to give them stuff. This is some stuff that we've done for a new movie called Gravity, which is out. I think it's out next year. It's quite a unique movie. It's a lot of cutting edge technology that he used in it, with face replacements and stuff like that. The director Alfonso Cuarón, he wanted some zero-G fire. So these are some elements that we tested for him. Basically what we did, the square box is the shape of the set, and on the day we was going to paint, we painted the box black so that you couldn't see, so you couldn't see the box. And then we shot this at different speeds, and we basically just rotated the camera. So in the movie, the flames will come down both walls, the floor and the ceiling. And it's really just to give, we don't really know what flame looks like in zero-G, but we designed this so that we could give a different look that wasn't just like normal flame. So if you imagine this on all the walls, the walls, the ceiling and the floor, it sort of gives quite a unique effect. It's almost like a bit of art as well, it's quite mesmerising, I have to say. And I'm sorry it's such a small format, but we shot with a sort of cheap high-speed camera, so the actual file size is quite small. So, but this is just another example of us working with with the visual effects. to give them elements to put into sets. Pyrotechnic switching. I mean, this has come on a long way since the early days of initiating explosives. This is a basic box, which is just switches that you connect the two wires to it, connect a battery to it, and bang, off you go. And then you get the more sophisticated switch boxes, which can be computer controlled. You've got input devices with the blue there. And then you go back to really basic stuff, which is a striker. These used to be called nail boards. And what they used to do, they used to get a piece of timber and they used to just bang nails into it. And then connect the wires to the nails and have one earth wire. And you used to connect one earth wire to the battery, and then you used to have another pin connected to the other side of the battery. And all your squibs were connected to the pins, and then you just made the connection by running the positive down the pins, and that's how easy it was. We've just taken that step further and made these special boxes for that sort of work. And the beauty of these boxes is that you've got a human element where you can, if you want the bullet hits faster, you can run your hand down the striker faster or slower. You can do it in shot even. You can start it. If you're chasing an actor down the road and somebody's firing at him, and he stops, you can stop the striker by hand, and then if he starts to run again, you can just carry it on. So sometimes the basic way is the better way. This is actually the sequencer. This is the computer one, where these boxes can be linked up. So this is 24 ways, you can have 48 and so on. Just keep going. Special effects workshops. This is one of my workshops in the UK. It says, yeah, there. So, a wide amount of equipment, quad bikes, wind machines, all sorts of stuff. Machine shop, wood, steel, plastics, you name it, we can make it. Wind machines, air movers, hoses, so it's quite and this is set up all the time, so whenever we need anything, we can just go to the shelf and pick it up, and it goes onto the set. Workshop equipment, we've got the lathes, I've got a number of these, we've probably got 10 of these, and cut-off saws, so everything is fabricated in our workshops. This is a great machine for metal working, chops and cuts and steel bars and all sorts of stuff. Great machine, saves a lot of work. Assaulted welders, again, because we travel in different places, we can have welders in, we can set workshops up in 5, 6 different places, It's good to have, a large amount of equipment available. Special effects breakdown, as I mentioned earlier, it just gives the direction, production, all the possible effects that need to be created. There's a template. This is basically the template, so you can see how you can make it as detailed as you like. Sometimes I'll do a breakdown for a movie and I sort of know I'm not going to get the movie, so I'll break it down in certain elements, but I won't give them all the effects comments, because then, if I know that I'm not getting the movie, then I tend to do less work on it, I have to say. A risk assessment, is an important document. I mentioned this earlier. This is by law. When we're doing effects on the set, we have to notify all the crew about the risk of effects. And a typical risk assessment document looks like that. This will be on the call sheet so that everybody knows, the hazards that are involved and the recommendations to protect the crew. And it even goes down into, no mobile phones on the set, because mobile phones can let off explosives. Method statements. This is something that, you know, if you're filming in a big city, you know, if you're filming in London and you're doing quite a big effect, you have to basically tell the authorities exactly how you're going to do it. And it literally is, this was for National Treasure, and we were driving through the middle of London, blowing all these beer barrels up in the air. So we basically had to tell them exactly what we were going to do and how we were going to do it, and the test area that we had at near Pinewood, and then at the end of it, I have to sign this and give it to them. So if anything goes wrong, they come running after me. Special effects budget. Very important to the production. Again, this is just a very simple outline of mine, which is very effective, and it just gives you the weeks and the amount of crew and how long they're on it for, when they start, when they finish, when the shoot period is in yellow. That's the other side. Totals. That was a small movie. So this has been a brief summary of the art of special effects, and it is an art. I don't care what anyone says. There are a lot of courses that are available. As I say here, it'd be great to have some feedback of what you thought, because I like doing these talks, and and I don't want to make them boring, and I hope it hasn't been boring. But if you have any feedback, I would definitely like to know. Either way, if you think it was rubbish, I'd like to know that you think it's rubbish. This is something that I've been trying to start up for a while, and it is hard because of the time it takes to do it. But in the future, I am going to set up a school of special effects, and it'll be a lot of fun. It's going to take into consideration all the explosive courses and that. There's a lot of books around, and I'd like to finish this bit with just some more work that we've done. This is the second show reel. This is that shot that Stephen wanted all in one shot. So that there's rain everywhere. This shot here as well this is all physical effects. The only visual effect was that screen. The rest of this is all practical. dummy, and you just have very subtle hand movement on so that he actually goes forward. And we shot that in New York City. We actually created the light effect. This is a big flare that we had strung from 2 cranes. This is that gimbal rig that I explained on Superman. That set, the pantry set, is that set that is lowered into the water, which creates that water coming up. Weather effects, smoke, rain, flames. Those are full-size sea cows that have collapsed on that. They weren't miniature. Basically it. I'm sorry I've gone on a bit, but if anyone's got any questions, feel free to ask.
You told us that if you hurt someone on the set, you are fired, but of course it's entertainment, so I'm not sure that it is so, that this rule is always applied. Have you hurt someone?
What, got fired?
No. Have you heard someone on the set?
Sorry, have I heard somebody on the set
Yeah.
that got fired?
I mean.
Did anyone get hurt?
Oh,
No,
hurt.
hurt.
Oh, sorry. No, I mean you get the odd bit of dirt in the eye. You know, in these explosions, you know, somebody gets a bit of dirt because the wind's in the wrong direction. But I mean, accidents have happened on other shows that I've heard about, but certainly not on our shows, I have to say.
Okay.
But Brad Pitt doesn't like fake snow, does he?
Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
No, Brad Pitt don't like anything that we do really. So he likes himself.
In most cases, when you are doing explosions, you are using quite safe explosives. I mean, they are not super safe, but it's like slow explosives. Were you using anytime quick explosives, like military explosives, on the set?
Very much so, yeah. On Private Ryan, we were using a lot of military type dynamite explosions, just to create that mass effect, you know. There's like two types. You've got the pyrotechnic, which is the sort of fireworky type looking stuff, or you've got the high explosive, which are the primary and you know, major explosives like dynamite and plastic explosive. But yeah, we do. You know, I've used some quite high military stuff in stages. You know, because we do test stuff and we make sure that it's safe before anyone gets on the set. But sometimes these materials are the only things that will do that job for that application.
And how you transport explosives to other countries?
Yeah, I mean, it can be easy. You know, sometimes we've taken explosives to Europe. Some type of explosives you can take in a car on the ferry, and as long as you notify the captain what you've got and how it's packed and what type of vehicle it's in, it can go in there. Other times I've chartered aircraft to take the explosives into a place like Tenerife. We had some high explosives taken in there, and we got our own aircraft. And it really depends on the budget of the movie, you know. Sometimes we can find what we need in the place, you know. If we come to Europe, we know companies around Europe that supply what we need.
I wanted to ask you if you still would love to do something, but you hadn't got a chance to.
What would I like to do? Well, special effects. You know, something always comes up every day. You know, every movie something comes up that I want to do. My main thing at the moment is I want to branch out and do other stuff. As in, you know, I've come to the top of my profession doing special effects, and I'll always do special effects, but you know, I want to direct now, and I've got this big opportunity of directing a movie very soon, which is quite exciting. So that's one of my goals.
Yeah, I have two questions. How does it work when a director asks for an effect and you don't have the budget for it? Do you tell him that, or does it always go by the producer? And yeah.
I try and give him options. You know, I never like to say, no, you can't have it. I'll always give him 2 or 3 different scenarios or different options that he can pick from. And most of the time we can give him something that he likes. What I have going for me is that I have such a big resources of equipment and materials in my workshops. So most of the time with the budget, I can do it for half the price or a quarter of the price. If it's a project that I really want to do, then I'll go out my way to help them.
And how do you make a good-looking, safe black smoke?
There's no such thing as the only safe black smoke is CG smoke. Unfortunately, it's one of those things that, you know, over the years we've tried to get a safe black smoke, but it's just not possible, unfortunately.
It's exciting news about your new project. Can you
Yeah.
say a few words about this?
It's still in its very early stages at the moment, but I was approached by a company from China, a very big company over there, to direct a movie that's set in the mountains. It's a bit like a cliffhanger stroke vertical limit type movie, but that's all I can really say at this time until I sign the contract.
In the movie Gladiator, there are horses beyond the fire and the tree, hitting of the tree, and these horses was shooting on the green screen, or they were in the middle of this forest.
That was all shot on the set. There was no green screen elements in that sequence at all. So the horses were in the fire. Basically, what we did with the fire is that we created layers of fire, so the horses were very safe. And we also did a lot of training with the horses with fire. We got them used to being around fire.
Chciałem zapytać tylko, czy efekty specjalne, jakie proponujecie, już proponujecie łącznie z ustawieniem kamer do nich, na przykład reżyserowi?
Yeah, a lot of the time the director, a lot of the time I will give advice to the director as in to where to place the camera. Because I've done, I would have done a lot of tests of different angles. The director would then look at those and he would sometimes go, well, yeah, I like that angle, and I like that angle. And then he would take that into the set experience and use those particular camera angles. We have a very creative input into what the director, wants.
Which director is you like to play working the best?
Which
Director, film director.
Oh, that's a tricky one. Any journalists here? You know what? I like working with directors that know what they're doing, have a great, have time to explain what they want. Great directors like Steven Spielberg's great. He's very difficult to work with, but he's one of the true geniuses. Ridley Scott is an amazing director. He's a fantastic illustrator. He can draw a set. He can draw a picture of a set, and it's exactly what you see on the set. He's very good at communicating with crews. A lot of them are good. It's the shouters and screamers that I don't like. The ones that, and for me, they're the ones that haven't done their homework, and they're using that to, to show that, they've come on set unprepared. And over the years I've learned a lot from directors. Because I want to direct, I've learned what you should do and what you don't do, and that's been a great experience for me.
How do you mold a camel?
How do you mould a camel? You've got to get it to a standstill first. No, we don't mould camels. Basically, we sculpt them. We take a lot of reference pictures of the camel or whatever animal that we're doing, whether it be a horse or a camel or an elephant, and we basically sculpt it. So we've got some very talented sculptors that work with us that can do all that stuff, and then we just mould that from fiberglass and silicone. No, yeah, Maria asked me how we did this thing in The Mummy, where this.
Yeah, you said you wouldn't tell me.
Oh, right. There's this shot in The Mummy where these I can't remember, scabbards, is it? They come out of the ground, and basically there's this mountain of earth or sand comes up out of the ground, and basically it was literally just a cone underneath the ground which was filled with sand, and under the sand was like a diaphragm, which is like a membrane, if you like. And we just pumped air underneath it, and it basically gave as the diaphragm pushed the sand up, it gave you like a pyramid effect of the sand, and it's just an inflatable bladder. I don't know how you would say bladder in Polish, but that's what it was. Because if you just pumped air into sand, it just goes through the sand. So we had to create a compartment, a container that was flexible. So when you inflated it, it just pushed the sand out of the way. Easy.
The secret is out.
And the secret's out.
It's me again. Is there a safe way to do a shockwave? I mean, because this is one of the things which are very hard to mimic in CGI.
There is. I mean, we've got these compressed air. They're compressed air, but they're not. what can damage you with compressed air is if it's very small and it goes into the skin. These are designed where there's a lot of volume, but sort of medium pressure. So we actually use shockwaves on the vertical limit for the avalanches, and we basically just put one of these air cannons in front of the guy and just blew it, and it gives you, it gets all the clothes moving, it gets all the hair and everything moving, even a bit of the face, you know.
But if you want to do something in bigger scale, like make a shockwave in the forest, which looks amazing always.
Bigger scale is a lot more difficult. You know, we can do it with high-powered wind machines that can be blown very quickly, but it is hard. What we tended to do in other shows is do elements within that, you know, so that when you see a CG shockwave come through, we can put some practical elements in there just to help sell the effect. My crews, they sort of go up and down. You know, sometimes we'll have 10, 20 people on, other times we'll have, you know, I think the most I've had on a movie is like 120 people working on different aspects of the movie. I tend to go around with a core crew of people that work with me all the time. You know, people that when I start a movie, I know the first 10 people are, because they've been with me for a long time. We work well together. You know, there's a lot of stuff that we don't even have to talk about because they know how I work, and I trust them. With regards to the Kingdom of Heaven, you know, we built a big section of that wall. You know, I think it was like 300 meters long or something, the wall. And it was a mixture. We actually did some we did some miniature work on that. You know, we built a section of the wall in a third scale for when the ballista actually broke the wall down. That was actually a miniature that was then set into the real set. The ballistas, we built the ballistas, all the siege engines that we built. I went over to Canada because I know Canada quite well, and I know that their woodwork, dealing with big timbers like that, you know, some of these timbers were a metre deep, and I decided I wanted to build them for real because I just felt that it would just add to the movie. So I flew out to Canada. We had those built, and it was cheaper, believe it or not. It was cheaper to go out there, get 3 of these siege towers built there, and 3 ballistas, trebuchets, and ship them in kit form to Morocco. It was cheaper than getting them built in Europe, believe it or not. And we fired a couple of the trebuchets, but they were so dangerous. You know, you can see why there was so many casualties in the olden days, you know, when they actually used these things, because, you know, we'd fire it, and it would go probably, you know, almost like a kilometre into the desert. But then you had this metal cable that was whizzing round that would take your head off if you was anywhere near it. So we decided just to use the trebuchets just for the arm movement, and then the actual the cable with the ball on was actually a CG element because it was just too dangerous to use. We did a lot of the impacts onto the wall were half us and half CG. We actually just put charges onto the wall. So then you had a CG flame ball came in, and then as soon as it hit the wall, that was then our explosion. We took over. Again, for all the stuff in the courtyards where the stuff was coming through the wall, that was all practical breakaway sets that we prepared. But then anything that was flying through the air was CG. So it was a big collaboration between us and the visual effects. Yeah, and it's scenes like that I'm quite proud of because it is a big collaboration of different departments, and it looks good.
Neil, thank you very, very much for coming, for extremely interesting lecture. And hope you enjoyed the rest of the evening. It's our last night here, and just getting ready for the end of the year.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for welcoming me here, and you know, I think it's great what you're doing, and you know, as I said, if I'm not working, I'll definitely be back next year with a truckload of goodies to play with. So thank you.